What's good YouTube? In this guide I'll be teaching you everything you need to know about the Marksmanship Hunter in 10.2. We'll go over talents, rotation, stat priority, gear, consumables, enchants and any macros that I use. Moving straight into the class side of the talent tree then, we'll go over some of the notable talents we'll be running as an Hunter. We have to take misdirection for this spec because of how bursty we are. We have some of the best bursts in the game, so if we didn't have a way to redirect our threat, we would rip aggro at the start of every single pull and probably end up dying. Post haste is a vital pickup defensively. Not only does it give us extra mobility, but it also frees us from movement impairing effects, and there's actually quite a few dots or debuffs that are linked to movement impairment, so we can get rid of these by simply disengaging. As a hunter, we're notorious for being squishy, so we'll pick up Nature's Endurance to beef up one of our biggest defensives, and this also allows us to take Rejuvenating Wind to get some extra max health and healing. For this talent node here, you can choose between Binding Shot or Scatter Shot. Most people do default to Binding Shot as it can be a decent AoE stun, it just does need some more coordination, but Scatter Shot is actually a really underrated pickup as well, as you can gain an extra single target stop. Personally, I've been using Scatter Shot a lot more this season and it's proved really useful for some extra stops. Master Marksman is going to make up a lot of your overall damage. This is because of how often we crit thanks to talents like Bullseye, Keen Eyesight and just general crit that we value through our gear. Finally, down the bottom right we can opt for Poison Injection for some extra single target, or Hydra's Bite for some extra AoE. Note that we don't ever have to manually press Serpent Sting, as our Serpent Stalker's Trickery talent passively applies them through our aim shot. Finally, down the middle we'll take Death Chakram to get a 10% damage increase every 45 seconds. This lines up really nicely with Volley and Salvo, and we'll also take Explosive Shot for some extra on-demand burst. Next, we'll move on to the Marksmanship specific talents. There's a few different builds dependent on the content you're clearing, so I'll leave timestamps below for each set. We'll start with the Mythic Plus or AoE build for The notable talents here include Surging Shots down the left side. This increases the damage of our rapid fire by 35%, which is vital as our whole tier set is based around rapid fire resets and damage. This talent also gives us an extra chance to reset rapid fire whenever we aim shot. Down the bottom left, we'll take Salvo for some on-demand burst every 45 seconds. You'll want to pair this up with Volley and a macro that I'll show you guys later. We'll also take Unerring Vision down the bottom middle to beef up our true shot windows massively, giving us critical strike and crit damage towards the end. Finally, we'll put 1 point in Legacy of the Windrunners so that we can obtain the focus regen and the free charge of aim shot every 24 wind arrows. This really smooths out the rotation. You can make one change to this tree for bigger AoE dungeons like Everbloom, where you'll want to take 1 point out of Bulletstorm and swap it in for light ammo to get some extra cleave on your rapid fires and aim shots. Only use this build if you're consistently going to be fighting more than 8 mobs. Moving on to the raid or single target build, we'll make a change in the class talent tree by moving Explosive Shot into Still Trap for some extra single target. For the Marksmanship tree, we'll pick up Death Blow and also Razor Fragments to beef up our kill shot and therefore also our execute. This works really nicely with the talent Bullseye, giving us huge crit when the boss enters execute range. We'll also take points out of the left side of the tree to feed further into the bottom right to pick up Windrunner's Guidance. This is going to give us cooldown reduction on rapid fire, but also increase our future true shots by 10 seconds. This works really nicely with Unerring Vision to juice your true shot for the last 20 seconds. The only problem with this talent is unfortunately your first true shot of the fight, usually lined up with Bloodlust, doesn't benefit from the extra 10 seconds as you haven't built up any wind arrows yet. As far as stats go for the Hunter, weapon DPS is going to be your most important stat, then we go for agility. Generally, all secondary stats are pretty balanced in terms of priority. Haste and crit pull slightly ahead, with versatility being the least desired, but with that being said, any singular secondary could be your best stat dependent on your current gear. Your best gear setup will have an almost equal amount of every stat. Crafting depends on where your focus lies as an Hunter. If you want to maximize raid performance, then you should start by crafting the adaptive Dracothist arm guards, followed by the allied leg guards of the Sandsot Khan. You could also go with the Signet of Titanic Insight with a blue silken lining embellishment. Technically, the legs will be a DPS loss compared to the ring for your personal damage, but it will help your raid out to counter this. If you're more focused on Mythic Plus content, then start by crafting the Signet of Titanic Insight and the ring-bound hourglass with a blue silken lining embellishment. Next, you can craft a weapon if you don't already have access to a 486 one. After this, just craft whatever your lowest item level slots are. For trinkets, your best in slots will be Pip's Emerald Friendship Badge from the Council of Dreams in Amirdrasil. Then you'll ideally want to get your hands on a Mirror of Fractured Tomorrow from Murazon's Rise in Mythic Plus. This combo gives you some nice passive stats while also generating some massive bursts through the on-use for your True Shot window. You'll always want to line up your on-use trinket with True Shot wherever possible. The Coiled Serpent Idol is a really nice pickup for single target too, as well as the Augury of the Primal Flame. For enchants, you'll want to put the high intensity thermal scanner on your weapon. You'll enchant your head with the incandescent essence. You'll enchant with avoidance on your cloak and braces to help you become a tad more tanky. Waking stats will be your chest enchant. On your belt, you'll rock with a shadow belt clasp. Fierce armor kit for your legs. On your boots, you'll apply a watcher's loam. And for your rings, I recommend devotion of haste enchants, but it is best to sim here in case you value other stats more. For consumables, your best file is the ice file of corrupting rage. However, as a squishy marksmanship hunter, you may want to opt for a file of tepid versatility to avoid the damage component. Elemental potion of ultimate power will be your DPS potion of choice, with the new Dreamwalker's healing potion being your go-to healing potion. On your weapon, you'll want to use completely safe rockets for some extra fire damage, and if you can afford it, the Dreambound Augment Room will be used in all situations. For your food buff, you'll want to consume a feast ideally, but feisty fish sticks are a good backup as some personal food. Lastly, for your gems, you'll want to run with a fierce Illimited Diamond as your primalist gem, then you can fill the remaining slots with crafty emeralds. I would recommend to double check by simming yourself though. Finally, getting into the rotation, some general tips for your marksmanship rotation involve you always casting. Leaving seconds between your cast is where your main DPS will be lost. Try to keep your movement to a minimum to ensure you are not losing casts of aim shot. Speaking of aim shot, you want to try your best not to overcap on aim shot or rapid fire ever. Sometimes this isn't possible due to procs, but the main aim of your rotation is to cast these two abilities as much as possible. You ideally also never want to overcap on focus. If you're out of aim shot charges and rapid fire, then fill with multi or arcane shot. Now getting into the opener, we'll start with a single target build for raid. You'll start by placing a hunter's mark on the mob pre-pull. Then you'll precast an aim shot at around 2.25 seconds before the fight begins. Then we'll use rapid fire, into a steel trap, then we send Death Chakram. After that we cast volley, then activate true shot, fire 2 aim shots here, into a rapid fire, then back to an aim shot. Following this opener, you'll proceed with the following priority list. We'll use rapid fire if trick shots is about to expire to extend your volley with your new tier set. Then use kill shot on cooldown. After this, we'll use volley on cooldown, and finally, we'll use Death Chakram on cooldown. Next, we'll use rapid fire on cooldown. Then we're going to use true shot on cooldown. Make sure to use this when you can stand still for most of its duration to maximize aim shots. Then we're going to use aim shot on cooldown to make sure it doesn't overcap, or if we have no precise shot stacks remaining. After this, use steel trap, followed by arcane shot to spend precise shot stacks, and also use arcane shot as a filler above 55 focus. And then finally, when you have nothing else to do, use steady shot as a filler. Next, we'll move on to the Mythic Plus rotation. For AoE, our rotation is almost identical to single target. However, we must activate trick shots before every aim shot or rapid fire to make sure it cleaves. You'll start with this opener. Use an explosive shot, into a Death Chakram. Then we're going to use our volley salvo macro. After this, we activate true shot, into an aim shot, then into a rapid fire, and back to an aim shot. After this opener for AoE, we'll follow this priority list. We'll use explosive shot on cooldown, then we'll use Death Chakram on cooldown, followed by our volley salvo macro. Then we're going to use true shot on cooldown, but make sure that you can stand still for most of its duration. After this, we use rapid fire on cooldown, but trick shots must be active. Then we use multi-shot to spend our precise shot stacks. We also use multi-shot here to activate trick shots, and also as a filler if we have more than 55 focus. After this, we use aim shot on cooldown, and we never want to let it reach 2 charges, even during our true shot. And then finally, we use steady shot when we have nothing else to do. Finally, here are some of the macros that I use as a marksmanship hunter. I'll leave a paste bin in the description for you guys to copy. Here is my volley salvo macro. Salvo isn't on the global cooldown, meaning you only have to press this button once to activate both. Also, tied to my volley, I have an @cursor macro to allow me to pre-place my cursor and use the keybind. This avoids the extra click to place my volley with the green graphic. For misdirection, I use a macro that I change before every key, where I'll copy and paste the tank's name within the brackets. This means I don't have to put the tank on my focus or use a weak aura, though I have heard good things about some misdirection weak auras that you guys might want to go and find. Again, I have more @cursor macros for abilities like freezing trap and also binding shot. For true shot, I use a macro that activates my ratio ability with true shot and also my trinket if it's in the 13th slot. And finally, I use @focus macros so that I can put a target on my focus that I need to kick while feeding priority damage into another priority target. But that's all you need to know for Marksmanship Hunter, so hopefully you guys were able to learn a few things. If you did, then please feel free to drop a like down below and subscribe to your boy. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.